Barney the Purple Dinosaur was a cultural phenomenon that taught love to millions of children across the world, but also brought out a seething, toxic hate in adults, the likes of which is rarely seen. That is explored in the new documentary, I Love You, You Hate Me, a two-parter on Peacock now, directed by a buddy of mine named Tommy Avallone. Tommy also did the films The Bill Murray Stories, which is a documentary that explores all the myths surrounding Bill Murray. I Am Santa Claus, a movie that follows career Santa Clauses, Mick Foley included. And of course, Ghost Heads, a documentary about the fandom of Ghostbusters. In I Love You, You Hate Me, Tommy talks to the people that made Barney. He talks to the people that created the Barney hate groups. And he talks about how a purple dinosaur could be so compelling that it could bring out the absolute best and the absolute worst in all of us. We get to the bottom of all of it, as well as how could this doc be made in the first place. Here is Tommy Avallone. What a time to be Tommy Avallone. I thought I was Mr. Peacock. Every time you turn on Peacock, I'm trying to pop up on as many Peacock shows as I can, but I don't have a documentary on Peacock, Tommy.
You're Mr. A&E.
That's true. That's true.
There's so many questions I have about you popping up in the wrestling A&E things. I was like, oh my God, did they just tell him what to say sometimes? I feel like it's one of those things like, we need someone to say this. Get me Sam Roberts.
I did, yeah. That'll be the Sam Roberts. Get me Sam Roberts. Yeah, well, as you know, you're a documentary filmmaker. You know, I think it's just because in my head, I understand. I'm a producer in my brain, so I talk in sound bites when I'm doing those things. So I think they're just like, yeah, we'll just talk to Sam. He just takes pauses at all the right spots and like rephrases questions and sets things up for an audience that wouldn't normally understand it.
Yeah, I mean, like anytime we do a doc, you interview the subjects, like Bill Murray Stories or I Am Santa Claus, you're interviewing real people all the time, but then you go in and interview some of the journalists that can kind of say what you want to say.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing to go, oh, no, you're really good at this. You know?
Can you tell my story for me?
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Just now popping up on Peacock. I guess it's technically a docu-series because it's 2 parts.
Yes. I guess it's like, it could be a 2-part documentary, but I think the word docu-series is a little bit more trendy. So, you say docu-series.
Right. I mean, technically, you probably even could have made it one long documentary,
sure.
but
you need more tease moments.
Yes. Yes. And there was, and by the way, the tease moment, I'll try not to spoil much here.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll try not to spoil too much because you got to watch on Peacock, but the tease moment, going from episode 1 to episode 2, beautiful.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Beautiful. Loved it.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything bad about anything, but there's a couple different documentaries where like they'll tease from one episode to the next, but resolve it real quick in the opening, like of the next one. And you go, what the, that was our goal, hopefully, to try to not be that.
Yeah, make me hang on. Make me hang on a little bit for it. So the movie is called, or the series, whatever, I Love You, You Hate Me. It's a docuseries on Barney the Purple Dinosaur. And I know that you had to be thrilled. This thing gets announced 2 weeks or so before it comes out. And immediately, it's like a #1 trend on Twitter. Everybody is pumped for it. Because I think that the expectation was that, yeah, of course you could do a documentary on Barney. Everybody that was around when we were growing up knows what a cultural force Barney was.
Absolutely.
But I think the fact that you added in the second part, which is, I forgot. Yeah, it was just as big of a cultural force to want Barney dead.
Yeah. I mean, the first time the word jihad was ever used on the internet was the jihad to destroy Barney.
Yeah. Yeah, I started because I swear before, I hadn't even thought of any of that. I was just like, yeah, I remember Barney. My brother liked Barney. But I was like, that's right. I saw the title of the thing and I was like, no, I used to run around going, I hate you, you hate me, let's team up and kill Barney.
Yeah, so this idea started when there was I found this like retro 1993 news broadcast. It was the University of Nebraska, and they were doing a Barney bashing event. And it's all these college kids like smashing Barney, ripping Barney apart. And the newscaster goes, well, that's the future of our country right there. I was like, oh my God, we're living in that future now. You could really tell a good story about why we choose to hate the things we want about Barney.
And even just finding those guys, right? Finding them as adults to be like, hey, why'd you do this?
Yeah, I mean, that was our idea. It's like, we don't think any of these people were monsters, but it's like, I mean, oh God, my Aunt Ro, I asked once to make me a Barney costume when we were like younger. Barney came out, I was 10 years old, but me and my friends would make goofy videos and all that stuff.
Sure.
And my one friend was Mr. Rogers, and I was dressed as Barney, and we filmed us like, him beating me up. Like who didn't try to be funny by making fun of the thing that was popular?
And 10 years old was like the perfect, like you had just aged out.
Oh yeah,
of Barney.
Well, Barney aged out probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But, like they were such a like what was successful and smart about Barney is they saw a market between like 0 and 3, and they're like, let's zero in on them. And it was huge.
Yeah, but it is, and I mean it gets into everything. 90s culture is under such a microscope these days because it really was such an insane,
It's very aggressive.
such an insane time, such an aggressive time.
Some would say it's an attitude era.
It was. Everything fit that attitude era, right? Wrestling, Jerry Springer cartoons, and to the point where like we couldn't have nice things. Like this is for children, and then children were really enjoying it.
Well, right. Well, like, what's it to be said about like loving a character and then your parents are making fun of it or wanting to like trash it all the time? And you're like, how do I feel older? How do I feel cool? Oh, it's not liking these things that were like, just, baby talk or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, as I'm watching this thing, right, because I don't, like the Barney Bash Fest didn't bother me because I was like, if I had been of college age, I would have absolutely been at the Barney Bash Fest. Like that, it was the time, like, me and my friends were making jokes, as I said, about killing Barney. The thing that I felt a rage over were the parents that were like, I hate that my kids like this. And I go, what kind of a scumbag doesn't get some kind of joy out of the fact when I see my kids like something? I understand it's not targeted towards me, so I'm probably not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch Ryan Toys reviews, on my own. But I also am like, yo, Ryan, I got your back. My kid likes you, so I got your back. You don't worry about it. Like that's where I would think. But you see this guy in your film, and he's like, well, I started the Society of Barney Haters.
I Hate Barney's Secret Society.
The I Hate Barney Secret Society. And he says, I did it because I came home from work, and my kid was watching Barney instead of looking at me. And I go, you egomaniacal monster of a human.
Yeah, I mean, well, like later in the film, you find out like really like some like deep issues why he was attacking Barney.
Yes,
but it's like Bob West, who's the voice of Barney. He said it to us in the beginning. It was like Barney, in some ways, was like a mirror to like what you didn't like about yourself. Like Barney was so triggering in so many different ways, where it was like he's talking about love and acceptance, and it's like, well, what if I don't have love in my life, or what if I don't feel like, what if I don't come from a happy family? And it's just like it's like. It's like damn the man who's perfect. It's like we have Gavin Edwards. It's kind of like what you are into the wrestling. Like we just had an expert come in and talk about stuff.
Sure.
But he was just talking about how like we always sort of
like the Barney historian fan. That was your Sam Roberts.
Well, yeah, he wrote a book about Mr. Rogers. We're like close enough.
Yeah.
But no, it was like we attack these things that seem perfect. Like the urban legends that come around, like Barney. Mr. Rogers, Steve from Blue's Clues. There's all these rumors that we have to do because we're attacking something that feels perfect to make ourselves feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, and historically, it always has been fun to make fun of a thing that's lame, right?
Well, lame in your mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because the kids love Barney, and some of them I feel will probably bash Barney just to fit in, but still probably watched it.
Probably, yeah. There's always those kids that probably were like 8 years old and still watching Barney because then they were like, I still like this. Probably because they didn't want to be around their friends that were making fun of everything all the time.
I mean, I remember I was a little too old for Power Rangers, but I would watch it.
Yeah,
like I was like, oh, Power Rangers, dude. I'm just watching this to make fun of it. But I was like, the Green Ranger is great.
I specifically remember, Sam, are you asking for wrestling toys for Christmas this year? No. No.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes.
You
still have them. They're all over there.
It's never been a Christmas that I haven't asked for wrestling figures. It hasn't happened yet, because you gotta fit it. Okay, so let's talk about how
keep talking about wrestling figures.
I know, right? That should be the next doc. How did this come to be though? Do you find that clip and you have this idea of like, okay, this is the next doc that I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that clip and I sent it to my friend Trent Johnson, who works at Scout Productions. They do Queer Eye, Legendary, Equal, The Hype, a lot of sort of competition reality shows, but they're getting into documentaries. So I was like, well, why don't we do a documentary about love and hate, but told through the eyes of Barney the Dinosaur? Like I always
that.
thank you. I always try to do like Trojan horse movies. You know, Bill Murray's story was very much similar to that. And they thought that was a great idea. So we just developed a sizzle, did some research, started talking to all these Barneys, started talking to some of the haters, started talking to everyone we could to kind of see like what story is it. Like we are fascinated to know that, like, you know, you think of Barney like much like a Sesame Street, like it was from a New York or an LA or created by some network or something like that. Like Barney was created by two school teacher moms in Dallas, Texas. Well, Allen, Texas, right outside Dallas. And you're just like, it's so crazy. It really was like a punk rock story in some sense.
Wholesome punk rock for kids.
Yeah, well, because like the Garage Band, you know, they made these tapes. They just did these tapes themselves, and they had all their other moms call up, you know, their like Toys R Us and all these other places, Blockbuster, to get them in the stores. It was very aggressive in that way.
Yeah.
And then after like their 8th tape, PBS was like, I think this is great. So it's like, you know, Green Day signing to like, you know, Warner Brothers or whatever.
Yeah, and then that's Dookie, and then Dookie comes out. Yeah.
And then I remember when I was a kid, like it suddenly became popular to not like Green Day. I'm not sure if you remember.
I remember. Yeah.
And I remember trashing Green Day. I'm like, secretly, I was like, I still like Green Day. You know? Insomniac's a great album.
Yeah, but we'd have to trash it. Okay, so you're going, okay, this is my thought, and then are they like, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, we pitched it to everyone, you know, and Peacock grabbed it. I mean, it always made sense to me for like a Peacock sort of situation, because even though Barney was on PBS, they always had like NBC relations. They would do specials for NBC, and up until the pandemic, Barney had Barney World at Universal Studios.
Right.
Yeah, there was this little like subsection for kids, and there was a big Barney statue, and they would have like Barney come out and sing songs and stuff.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but I would
hope not. I mean, I don't know what you'd be doing there at this point in your life.
But I am going to Disney for my 40th birthday. It was weird to think that as soon as we started this project, that's when the Barney World went away.
Yeah, I was like, no, we don't want. Was it difficult? So, you know, I mean, with all the content out there historically that has been anti-Barney, was it difficult kind of finding everybody involved? Obviously, not everybody involved even wanted to do it, but you got a lot of heavy hitters from the Barney world. Was it difficult kind of selling them on the idea of what this was and gaining their trust, or were they kind of down?
Some people were just down, and other people, you know, like kind of like earn that trust, you know. Thankfully, the movies I've done in the past haven't been anything that was like evil.
Right. Santa Claus, Bill Murray, Ghostbusters. Yeah.
There's nothing that was like, we're going to get you.
Right.
You know, and thankfully that was like a huge help. But some of them, is it okay to talk about how we're pre-recording this to play on the 12th?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, as of now, no one's seen it.
Right.
Like from the crew. So they're all just like days away waiting for it to premiere. And
I got to see it before they did.
Yeah.
That rules.
Yeah. And then they're kind of nervous, you know? But
by the way, everybody does look good in it.
I think so.
I think everybody comes across good, you know? I mean,
I say nervous in that like they're just nervous for anything. Just to see themselves on TV.
Sure.
Because for so many years they didn't talk to anyone, you know?
And I'm sure the story itself, they all talk about Barney like it's a member of their family.
Absolutely.
And so it feels like they're protective over the story.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure that it's not, you know, manipulated, or that justice is done to it.
Yeah, I mean, and I say that's huge because I think it's funny and I think you'd appreciate it. But like, you know, it was interesting because everyone's from like Texas and they're super nice. And I'm not saying anything bad about them, but it was always great where it was like, they would say something about this particular person and they'd be like, oh, they're great. As soon as we cut, they're like, you know, and there was a couple of those moments where like, why don't you just talk about you know, people, they're just always going to want to put their best foot forward, you know? And that's the great thing about Barney was it was always super positive, you know?
Thinking back on watching it, it's funny because there are now, you know, when you watch it, you'll hear it. There are a couple of moments where the camera will stop and then it'll turn back on, and it's in the doc. You can hear your voice saying, what was that you just said? And they have to kind of go over, well, I wasn't totally, when I said, I really meant.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of that, but, you know, I mean, like, we're not trying to make anything like crazy, like, super sensationalized or anything like that, but just telling like on a story. And the honest thing is, Barney was this character that always smiled. And there was something about America, especially in that time, where it was like, I don't trust this. I don't
Yeah.
trust someone who is always happy.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like, we try, you know what? Since we're, wrestling,
Yeah.
I tried to get John Cena in this because John Cena is the real life Barney.
Of course he is. And he had to sit there and deal with, Cena sucks and boos and I hate you and you're the reason wrestling is not what it was when I was a kid.
But then how many kids just like love and adore him?
And they didn't understand. Why would you boo this guy? He's got great T-shirts. I love him.
Yeah. So it's like Barney was an amazing superstar for the people he was made for. And then everyone else, the 1835 wrestling fan for John Cena, just would boo him.
Yeah. Were you surprised how quick the response was on this? I feel like it's without premiering, it's already. Although I don't know. I mean, a lot of your movies have done well, but it's like I feel like there was just such an instantaneous response to it online. As soon as the trailer dropped, everybody's like, "Yup, this is the one I've been waiting for."
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the different camps of it. Some people are going, why do they got to do this? You're ruining my childhood. And I love commenting back, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's like, we shouldn't have been so mean to Barney.
Right. And then like that's some of the articles are like the dark side of Barney. It's like, no, it's the dark side of us.
Yes.
Barney was good.
Yes.
So, but it's just funny, like the buzzwords, like with dark side and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, no, it was great. A lot of people were like into it. And I think a lot of people were turning that just like, why were we so bad to Barney? Like, what did he even do? I mean, like my son listens to Blippi all the time. Like, I'm not going to have I hate Blippi secret society,
No, that's one. Like, look, if I caught Blippi by myself and nobody that I loved was into it, I'd be like, this is stupid.
Yeah, right.
But,
Right.
I'm watching it. I'm watching the joy that my kids are getting from Blippi. And I'm like, I could see where somebody would want to bash this guy, but I would have to have his back.
Yeah,
I'm not
of course.
starting the
Yeah.
Blippi Haters Anonymous Secret Society. No, never. So the creator, one of the interesting side notes when you're talking about the dark side of Barney, you do go into the fact that the creator of Barney, like, as much as everybody on the show loved her family did kind of fall apart. Like, there was a dark side to her life. And she didn't want to be in the movie. Was that a blow when you guys were making this?
No, because it's like, I mean, like any sort of success story, there's always something else, and you never really know what's going on behind closed doors, right? And that's the main thing. You can't judge anyone like, oh, they must have a perfect life, because you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And Barney was huge, and like it did have a ripple effect in their family. I did actually like meet with Cheryl, right up, I guess it's near you, Sleepy Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We was somewhere like in the middle of both of us, and we just like had lunch, 4-hour lunch. It was great. It was beautiful. We laughed, we cried. But ultimately, like, even in the heyday of Barney, when this bashing was happening, they always did their best to ignore it. When Barney was, they never addressed any of the hate. They never did any of these sort of things. They just said, let it go, and like just shoot away like a fly, And that's still the way Cheryl is. If the movie was called I Love You, I think she would do it. But this You Hate Me, she wasn't going to be ever into that.
Wow. She just preferred to be like, no, I mean, if that's going to be there, let it be there. But I don't have anything to say about it.
Yeah, and which is nice. And like,
what was your takeaway from her, like talking to her?
I think she's a beautiful person. You know what I mean? Like, she just she's a school teacher at heart. She's a great mom, and she did what she could with everything she had,
What's she doing now? Is she just chilling, or is she like, because she's made a lot of money doing all this stuff?
I mean, I don't know what she's doing now. I think there was some attempts to try to do something else, but I can't say that for sure.
Yeah.
But all I know is like, she seems very happy.
Yeah. Were you surprised by how deep some of the Barney hatred went, whether it was what was the most surprising thing? Because to me, it was probably like, man, I knew that people hated Barney. I didn't realize that they were drawing swastikas on him on college campuses. Like, this is wild.
Yeah.
What was for you like oh, Jesus, like it went this deep?
Well, there was this like I Hate Barney album that I appreciated, but I don't know, man. Like the Jihad guy was, all the people were like, The jihad guy I can kind of understand where it's like he's just doing a parody. It's early internet. They really don't know what they're doing, all this other
Troll.
stuff. But yeah, and like even him in the movie talks about like, was this sort of behavior that he was sort of like him and his buddies were kind of creating in like early internet, was that the reason the way we are now? And he feels somewhat responsible for some of that sort of stuff. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I guess it's like we have Bill Nye in this movie.
Yep.
We have Steve from Blue's Clues, and they were great gets. But when we finally got the guy from the I Hate Barney Secret Society, we're like, yes, yes.
Yeah. Explain to me. I thought, he really did. His perspective added.
Yeah,
a lot.
And then I'm not a real sports fan. I just like professional wrestling. But apparently there's this mascot, the San Diego Chicken, that's quite popular. And
Pete Rose dressed up as him at WrestleMania one year.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's my connection. I'm with you on the wrestling.
I never knew that. That's who he dressed. I knew he dressed up as a mascot.
I think it was the San Diego Chicken. I think so.
That's crazy.
And then he caught the tombstone.
Oh, I knew that from King. Yeah. But well, because being from the Philadelphia area, I knew of Pete Rose.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever.
It's interesting with being from the Philadelphia area, right? Because I would have thought when they introduced Gritty, I'd be like, oh yeah, Gritty's in trouble. Like this is gonna be like Barney all over again. But I feel like there's a pride. I feel like there's a Gritty pride that Philadelphia has, and it might be very symbolic of the fact that times have changed. That there was a time where Gritty might get shoved down a flight of stairs, but now, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like Philadelphia fights for Gritty harder than they fight against Gritty.
Well, I think the thing is like the thing about Philly is like it's obviously at one point there was a jail cell in the football stadium, and I always hear that they threw snowballs at Santa Claus. That's like the
right.
claim to fame.
Right.
I think there was a little bit of backlash of Gritty in the first place, and again, I don't follow real sports, but I would see people bashing him in some sense. But at a certain point, at the end of the day, like there's a lot of weird characters in Philadelphia, and as long as you're from Philly, like it's like you got your back. It's like you talking about like Ryan. So it's like even like I can make fun of him, but you can't. You know? Like he's my guy. You know. So I just saw Blue Meanie taking a picture of him hugging the Gritty.
Of Blue Meanie and Gritty, Philadelphia's two top mascots. I think a great get for this movie was the original, or maybe not the original, but the main Barney actor, not the voice, the body of the guy who did all
we have the first.
You have all of them. You do have the first one, but the one that stuck out was, of course, the one that made it to TV and did all the stuff and ended up being a tantric guru.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the scenes that I really like in the film is I'm assuming it's you, are with him in the car.
Yeah.
And just kind of talking to him as he's driving. And you're like, well, but do you have sex with all the women? And he's like, well, it's almost like, I mean, yeah, but why are you even asking? That has nothing to do with anything.
Or he's like, well, what you consider sex.
But it depends on what the word is. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
That like with all people are like, no, Barney didn't have drugs in his tail. Like, no, Barney wasn't kidnapping kids. Like, no, Barney wasn't violent. Yeah, Barney was a tantric sex guru. Yes, he was a tantric sex guru.
But, Barney, the body of Barney, David Jordan. We all have to talk about our different versions of ourselves, right? Like he wasn't doing any of this stuff as Barney. Look, I did a documentary.
Do you know he wasn't doing anything as Barney? Do you know he never donned the suit during a tantric?
I know that for a fact, for the main reason I know how difficult that suit is to get on and the lack of mobility. But I'll tell you, like we had we did a documentary many years ago that you came to the New York premiere. I Am Santa Claus.
Oh yes, of course.
And in it there's a Santa that is also a swinger. He would go to Ron Jeremy's Club Sesso and was a swinger.
Yeah.
And so many people thought that's inappropriate for a Santa Claus to be a swinger, and he's like, I am not doing it when I'm with your child,
Yeah.
And it's like, this is Rob Figley and this is Santa Rob, there's two separate people. And I think David was always, there's never it happening during that time, and probably during that time he was too busy.
Right. Well, didn't they make him sign a thing too that like you can't have, as long as you're playing Barney, you can't be publicly be a tantric guru. Yeah. Did you learn anything about the art of Tantra?
To be fair, he was always into Tantra, like, with energy, meditation. he talked about like his meditations as Barney and like bringing his energy up and wanting it to go through the television.
Yeah.
And as silly as that sounds,
Yeah.
it kind of worked.
It did.
Like, I mean, like when he was Barney, it blew up. Nothing against any of the other bodies of Barney, but like there was something he was doing that was really connecting. And like, it was a lot of this sort of Tantra stuff, because Tantra isn't just sex,
Right. No, I mean, I learned that. I didn't know before I watched this.
As did I. but afterwards, after he left Barney, he's an actor. He was in like, did an episode of ER, did an episode of like a couple other different shows. I think he was in VP or Veep.
Veep.
Yeah.
Veep.
And he was in a couple things like that. But then he also got into this side business of doing the guru stuff, which is meditation and stuff like that, but that can, with some clients, lead to
sex by our very basic definition.
Yeah,
I don't know what.
But it was interesting to do that shot because like he has this was it RX? I'm not a car guy, unless it's like a DeLorean or Ecto One. But he was so small that there's no way other people. So I have the camera, I'm running the audio, I'm asking the questions, I'm going like this, getting car sick in the back seat somewhere in like North Hollywood,
like leaned into the back corner or whatever.
Yeah, well, because I'm in the passenger seat,
Yeah. How big of a crew are you?
We had a big crew.
You did.
Yeah, I mean, because God, this is my first like big sort of like working with like a big sort of partner like NBC Universal for Peacock.
Yeah.
Normally it's like me and two other people, and this is like there's just so many people.
What's it like when because you've done documentaries for a while now, and like the Santa one, for example, it was like, yeah, we'll do it and we'll finish it and then we'll try to get into some theaters. We'll try to sell it to a distributor. We'll try, and it's a very different business back then too, right? Like streaming wasn't what it is now.
Although Santa was on Netflix for 3 years.
Yeah, no, I remember, but it wasn't like okay, first thing you're gonna do is find a streamer. Like there weren't 10 streamers out there that were all.
Well, there wasn't
credible
originals,
Yeah. What's it like when you're shooting with that off your plate? Like, is there a release? It is great.
Very great.
It is great.
Yeah, I mean, because like it is easier because like sometimes like the first question people go is like, where's this gonna be?
Yeah,
so it's so much easier instead of going like, oh well, we've had our last couple movies have been on Netflix. It could be anywhere. There's so many different streamers, and all they hear is Netflix, and they go, oh well, I thought this was gonna be on Netflix.
Yeah,
it's like it's just silly stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's super great to like not have to like figure out like, is this going to sell? How's this going to do? Where's it going to be?
Yeah. And you can tell people, no, this is going to be on Peacock. It's going to be a big, like, they're going to put it on the front page and it's going to be on Peacock. And people are going to watch it.
I just hope we get a billboard. That's my goal.
Well, the visuals are all really good.
Right?
Oh,
it's so funny because, like, I was like, is the fire on the broken VHS too much? Like, is it a hat on a hat? And then one of the producers is like, well, half the audience may not even know what's on fire, but they'll know fire is bad.
I think that's right. I think that he's 100% right.
Because I mean, I know what a VHS is, but like I laugh at sometimes when people call it a VHS player.
VHS player, yeah.
It's a VCR.
It's a VCR. Or even a VHS. Like you would never call it a VHS when you were actually using it.
You would say a movie or a tape.
A tape. Yeah. Like they're taking this tape. Like, a burning VHS. Yeah. Do you have a VHS player? Yeah. No, I mean, I get it because, you're somebody would smash and burn the tape.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, well, I think some of the B-roll we had to do, I did actually set a Barney thing on fire. Like, you had to film some of this B-roll stuff yourself.
Of course.
But I made sure my kids were not anywhere near, so they didn't see.
Now, have you shown, throughout this process, have you shown Barney to your kids?
So my son's 6, and I didn't show it to, well, he's seen it, but my 2-year-old daughter loves Barney.
Wow.
And it's like, so it's funny because like I know all the people in Barney, right? Dean Went is the voice of Barney after Bob West. He's technically done it longer, so most kids growing up during
is Barney still on?
No.
Right.
Well, so what happened was, so Bob and all these other people left around like the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm not sure, but 2003, 2001-ish, like I'm not sure if you know, but Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez were actually on Barney.
I had no idea.
Yeah, they did not want to be interviewed.
No,
no. Well, because I guess like because we weren't working with Mattel, and Mattel owns it, I guess whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's complicated.
Yeah. But so Dean Went is a voice from like that latter year, and it got canceled in 2010. But it's still on Peacock, it's still on Amazon, it's all on everything. So
Yeah.
regardless,
Nothing's really ever canceled
well, it's
anymore.
sometimes
Like,
it's cheaper to play the reruns,
Right.
Because the demo keeps getting phased out every 3 years.
What do we need new episodes for?
Yeah. I mean, Sesame Street does that stuff,
Right.
Anyway, so Dean went. I was talking to him. My daughter was crying on the phone, and Dean's like, "Put her on," and he just started singing "I Love You, You Love Me" as Barney to her, and she was like instantly like soothed. She was like, it was
Wow.
great. Yeah. So, I mean, she would have been like probably like 1.5 at this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, there was this rumor that went around with Barney that they were saying something subliminal in these songs, because the kids would just lock in the way. There had to be something, the parents weren't hearing.
Something you're playing backwards or some kind
And so the writer, Stephen White, would always like, oh yeah, they always blame us for this. And then as soon as like my daughter would stop in her tracks and watch Barney, and I was like, I think they're right. There's something in this.
Yeah, it can't just be. It's not just the melody. There's something else going on.
Yeah, I mean, and funny thing is, it's like, so the Barney theme song and I Love You are both like recycled public domain songs. It's like This
Really?
Old Man and
Oh, of course.
and Yeah.
Do. That's so wild.
yeah, and it was I think it's Yankee Doodle. But there's another one.
Barney is Yankee Doodle,
Yeah.
Town, right?
Yeah. So it's all.
Wow, that really is punk rock. There's no overhead on this thing. There's no overhead.
I mean, the beginning stuff, it's like it's all the same songs. I mean, you look at any like Blippi album, Barney album, they're all singing like Itsy Bitsy Spider.
They're
because-
public domain.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I had no idea that all that stuff was public domain.
Yeah. I mean, so many of the songs you hear, like I wouldn't even say Wheels on the Bus, probably. Like
Yeah.
there's so many songs that are just so old, and there's some of them are like from like folk songs that like transitioned into kids songs.
Right. And yeah, I mean, and even if they weren't public domain, nobody would have any idea who owned them.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'd be too
Like
complicated.
the ants come marching one by one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Best version of that is in Die Hard 3, by the way. Not sure if you remember that.
So how long was the process of making this from kind of beginning to end? How long has your life been inundated with Barney?
I guess it's safe to say like 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Because like there was a lot of research that went into it, because
Of course.
The creators were always so protective of Barney. There isn't much out there. There's no one who wrote like a book about Barney. There's not many like oral histories of Barney online. It was like we kind of had to figure this stuff out. And there's like this solid fan base. Like in the movie is Andrew Olson, but there's like all these like Barney fans that are just like the core, and they just like have taken this newspaper thing and they like kind of built the history together. So it was like, I mean, you talk to like Bob West or David Jordan, and they're like, I think this is how it went down, But like a lot of the other people are like, I know this is how it went down,
Yeah. Yeah, that's so, but so there aren't really books or anything like
No.
that out there?
I think Andrew Olson in our movie will be writing the Barney book. Like, I think he's this like, he sees this as like, this is my time.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's a positive
Because
thing.
look at all the interest that this thing, and that's
I'm saying that as a positive, Andrew.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably part of the reason why there's so much interest on this thing, because it's like people have been waiting for this story. I mean, even if it's not the dark side, it's just like what was that? This was a force. It was a wave
Yeah.
that just completely took everything over.
And when we talk about the personal stuff for the creator, like, and I don't want to get into it too much because like you should watch the movie and like that's like ultimately the thing. But like,
Yeah, there's a tease about it. So if you just give it away here, it's like good. I'm assuming that tease would have worked, but it doesn't apply to me anymore.
Right. But I mean, that was like the biggest surprise is like, you just that stuff not out there, and you're like, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
that sucks. Because you don't want to hear any of that sort of stuff happen to anyone.
Like what we find out happens to the family of Cheryl.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's a deep tease.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I would say that works. But also, I also, as I'm watching that, I don't necessarily, I mean, you can say that, I don't know that if Barney didn't exist, the same thing wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You can tie it back to Barney, but at the same time, some people are just kind of troubled people.
Right. But it's like trouble magnified with certain pressures.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Like if that pressure, if you didn't put all that weight on the coal would it turn into a diamond?
Right.
You know? Like there's
Right.
always certain pressures that transition certain things.
What do you think of that? Because a big theme of this is that that the negative reaction to things can really deeply affect people. Like Steve from Blue's Clues even gets into the fact that people questioning whether or not he was alive, as much as they did, really affected him. Because then it started to be like, oh, is this what they want? Do they prefer if this were the case? And it's like, I never even thought of that. But at the same time, I feel as though when something's very successful and gets a lot of positive feedback, we never go, I don't know if this is a good thing to have this much positive feedback. We always kind of go, oh, more positive is good. Give it all to me. And I feel like you can't accept all that positive feedback and all that love and say, but really the other half of this you should eliminate.
Right. No, I mean, that's the thing is like, there's a couple pictures of it in the movie, but I don't know if we really describe it too well, but there's a Barney Bible, and in it, they show different emotions of Barney: sad, happy, fearful, anxiety, all this sort of stuff. And it's the same face, because Barney only smiles.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the big gripes was Barney. And, I think some of the team will admit like maybe that this should have been a thing, but like, Bert, you see him angry, Elmo, you see him upset, Big Bird is sad. Like there's all these other emotions besides the happy and the joyful and all that sort of stuff. And, I think with Barney only having that happy smile did cause a lot of
they wanted to
reaction.
light him on fire.
Right. But, with that said, it's like, yeah, I mean, you can't just be all positive all the time,
Right.
You have to understand, like, it's all sort of like a wave, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, should you read the hate comments on YouTube? Probably not, but you should be aware that there are probably some people out there that may not like you.
But I also think that if you should not read the hate comments,
You shouldn't read the good
you
ones.
shouldn't read the positive comments.
I agree,
Like
yeah.
they have intrinsically, a comment holds the same value as any other comment, regardless of whether it's good or bad. Like if you say, well, don't read the hate comments because they don't know what they're talking about, that would logically mean that the person who goes, this is the best show I've ever seen, also doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's where I get tripped up. Like when I see somebody really enjoying positive feedback,
Yeah.
and then not just being like, oh, the negative feedback kind of bums me out, but actively saying this negative feedback shouldn't exist. I'm like, you
Sure.
you were enjoying the positive feedback.
Right. Well, I guess and if you were referring to like with Barney, it's like, yeah, there are people who are right by saying Barney is annoying. Like there are reasons that Barney could be annoying to you if you're not a child, not the person they're making this for, right? But you can also like say these things like, oh, I don't like that because it's annoying or all sort of stuff, But also remind yourself of who you're surrounding with. Like you
Yes.
and me right now can be like, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like that, But once we put it out on like the internet or all that sort of stuff, it's like then you're sending that sort of stuff out
That's
there.
a good point. Yep.
Like I think, especially with early internet, people were just not used to the idea of seeing. Like I remember like talking to my friends on, I guess it must have been like MySpace, and then being surprised that other people could see those comments. Like wait, you could see that?
I
Like
didn't want that.
yeah, I don't like this feeling.
Yeah.
Like so it's like that idea. It's like you're allowed to have these. You can dislike something. Let's make a movie up. Sam and Tommy's Excellent Adventures.
Sure.
Sam and Tommy's Excellent
Sure.
Adventure. I hate that movie.
What?
I don't like it. But when you say that, like, why even put that out there?
Yeah.
Like, I do like talking. Like, there's certain movies like I really like Clerks 3. Like, I'm happy to talk about that. But
But if you didn't like it, you probably just wouldn't talk about it that much.
yeah, I would talk it to my friends when we
Sure.
were recording.
Sure. They go, what'd you think of that? Oh, it sucked, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, because it's like I don't know, like I enjoy connecting with people over like movies that I liked and disliked,
Yeah.
But I guess when you put it out there, though, I don't know, it's weird, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%. But yeah, I mean, but algorithms are built that way too. Like even now, I think that putting out a negative review is just going to get more eyes than a positive review. Which is why I want to say this thing sucks, man. This Barney thing is terrible.
Well, I mean, because what you're saying is interesting too, because it's not like, we're talking about like, here's a character that wanted to teach you how to love, and then we're just like, I hate that, you know, and like some of the same characteristics of that sort of hating on something simple could be applied to hating something like majorly, you know, like it's all about like what it says about us or what it says about myself. So how am I feeling this way and how does it make me feel? Yeah. So to teach a lesson or to show a lesson of something that's on the simplest forms of that could go like, oh, why would I do that? You know, like,
right. Yes.
Like we were talking when, hit me up, like you were like, oh, I saw Fig Heel posted about this.
Yeah.
You know? I showed him a cut, like, and he's like, it made me rethink the way I like think about things. It's like, well, I'm not just going to shut something off because I feel like I hate it. Like, oh, I asked someone like, oh, you like this? Tell me why you like this. You know, it's a different sort of way of thinking about something instead of just shutting it off. You know?
And I still, regardless of how I feel about positive and negative feedback, to publicly trash something that your kid likes, it's just, I mean, the lowest of the low.
Well, right. And because but I think a lot of the parents, like, I don't think they're doing it harmfully. They're just like, they didn't think to like what that means, you know, like when you're,
it's narcissistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I just don't think like when you're trashing something, you like as simple as Barney, like, oh, what's the matter? It's Barney, you know, but it's like, right. It's like all hate comes from dehumanizing, right? Mm-hmm. Like now we humanize Barney in this. Like you get to see the creators of this. You see the mom school teachers that work really, really hard. You see the voice, you see the body, you see all these people who work really, really hard to try to make this thing for your kids. And you're gonna burn the doll, you know?
yeah. Draw swastikas.
Well, you just feel for it. I think like you understand, like, oh, it's like, oh, I get that. Like now you know the people behind it. You know, why would I do that?
But it's interesting because towards the end of Barney, they did try to add more emotion and they tried to add some conflict on the show and stuff. And they were saying that the audience was not really into it. I did love that they did the thing that every show does, the Poochie of the Simpsons character, that they added Riff the dinosaur. I'm not like most dinosaurs. I'm a cool dinosaur. He's an urban dinosaur. And it's like, oh, God, not Riff.
But you got to think of it, too. It's like, Barney came out, like, the tapes were in 88. The show was 1992. And it fit this, like, hole that was, like, missing. And then everyone else goes, wait, what's going on over here? Yeah. And then you have all these other shows. I mean, Elmo becomes way more of a thing. Nick Jr. is starting, you know.
And it was true. I mean, you could do this exact same story. It would be much shorter form.
Right.
About Tickle Me Elmo. Remember the year that Tickle Me Elmo was big?
Yeah.
There was also like, hey, you know what would be funny? If I put a stick of dynamite in this Tickle Me Elmo because I hate it so much because people like it.
Well, dude, I mean, like, so Tickle Me Elmo was a direct response to Barney because Barney was so huge, it was like taking sales away from Sesame Street. Oh. So it was originally a Tickle Me Tasmanian Devil sort of thing, but somehow it ended up with Elmo and it went crazy. Rosie O'Donnell talked about it on her show.
Yes.
And like mob people were like there was like somehow the mob was like buying certain things. It was crazy. Like if you look up Tickle Me Elmo, the amount of like strange stories that comes with it is very unique.
I mean, that might be your next thing. We might have just talked you into doing a Tickle Me Elmo. Well, I'm watching.
We tried to pitch the show about like marketing things, and that was going to be like an episode. You know? I've always wanted to do a documentary on AIDS candy, AIDS.
The chocolate, the diet.
Yes, yeah. If you Google AIDS candy, this is before the disease.
Right.
Their slogan was "Lose weight with AIDS."
Right.
And it's like how is that like it's and once the disease comes out, right? The people who work there were like, I think the disease should change their name. We were here first.
No, they didn't.
Yes.
Oh, that's the best part right there. That's the money.
But it's so old. I mean, it's like early 80s. None of this stuff is on camera, and I'm sure some of these people passed away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought AIDS candy was an interesting story.
Have you thought about what? I mean, I know you've got another project that you're already working on. With your going to famous houses.
Yes. Yeah. If you go to thehousefrom.com, we are on Kickstarter because this is a project where we go to people's famous, like a famous house like the Full House house and see what it's like to live there. You know, from any of the movies and TV shows, Home Alone, Uncle Buck, all those sort of things. Friday, people come to Friday house and smoke pot on the front porch all the time. It's very funny. So we tried to pitch it as a show. you know, and we're like, oh, of course, people would want to see what it looks like in some of these houses, because like inside the Full House house does not look anything like the show at all.
Sure.
Because it was never filmed there, and even like the way it was structured, you know, there's the hallway and there's like Jesse's side and then the kids' side. Well, it's like Jesse's side would just be hanging off the side of the house. Like it's not structurally like
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. But like, so we tried to pitch this as a show, and all the network where people were like, you know, what's the stakes? You know, what's the drama? It's like, nah, no one died in any of these houses. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Are they haunted?
Yeah. So like, can we make this a game show?
Yeah.
You
What
know?
if somebody wins the house? Like somebody owns it.
Yeah. I mean, that was someone actually said that. I was like, can we make this a game show? I was like, I mean, if you want to do a bad idea. But anyway, so we just like, oh, we could just do this ourselves. So like on and off, a little before Barney, we filmed like a couple houses. And as soon as Barney wrapped, we filmed some more. And we're doing a Kickstarter now just to finish it off.
Nice.
Just to release it ourselves in the beginning of next year. So
And what's the Kickstarter?
It's thehousefrom.com.
Thehousefrom.com. Yeah, I've seen a couple houses. First, like one of my favorite stories is that they had to put a fence around the Breaking Bad house because
I'm going there Friday.
That's great because people kept throwing pizzas on the roof.
Yeah.
So they're like, you have to stop. But I went to. So my wife and I were in.
There's a picture of CM Punk and Kofi Kingston in front of the Breaking Bad house.
Oh, that rules. That rules. You got to reenact it with somebody. My wife and I were in Long Island, and we realized we were early for wherever we were going, and we realized like, oh my God, we're 3 minutes away from the Amityville Horror House. So we went there.
Yeah.
You know, we drove past it, and we're like driving slowly through the neighborhood because it doesn't. Once you see it, you're like, oh, that is it, because you see the shapes and everything, and the windows are very well known. But you wouldn't necessarily know it unless you were specifically looking for it. So we're like slowly going down the road, kind of looking out the window, trying to find it. And like, dude, the people that live in that neighborhood were giving us death stares. They knew exactly what we were doing. They knew why we were there. I mean, that's even worse because it was an actual murder site slash movie.
Yeah,
right? It's not just the movie house. It was a thing that happened there. I mean, it was years ago. I don't even know if anybody in the neighborhood's still there. But yeah, people were really annoyed that we were there to just look at the house.
What's funny about, so the Fresh Prince house is in Brentwood, right? Yeah. Fresh Prince is in Brentwood. And 2 blocks down is O.J. Simpson's house from, I mean, obviously the murder didn't happen at O.J. Simpson's house, right?
Right.
But
it's still O.J.'s house.
Yeah, and that's where like, so I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, since then they've knocked down that house and built a new house.
O.J.'s house they knocked down?
Yeah. And then even so much so, at the time when we record Jeff Franklin, the creator of Full House, he owned the Full House house, and then he owned the Manson murder house in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Right on Cielo Drive. So before...
You mean the Tate house or the lobby? Yeah. Is that the La Bianca one or the Tate one?
Tate.
That's the first one.
Yeah, the one that the Quentin Tarantino movies is all about.
Yeah. The Tate house. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Cielo Drive, and like, so I met with Jeff before we filmed at the house, and like I was like, this is so crazy, you know. But like, he knocked down the house and built like, I think like Trent Reznor like recorded one of his albums in the house before it was knocked down.
That's dark.
Yeah,
that's dark. That's dark. So why did he buy the house just to knock it down?
Well, so. He was looking at the property and he's like, this is really nice. It's really cheap, you know, and like, it was like, should I know anything sort of thing. And it was like, and
he
like,
bought it by mistake.
We didn't buy it by mistake. He was like looking at it, you know, and he was like, oh, this is nice. You know, I really like this. And they're like, well, you know, we do have to tell you that there's this murder thing happening. He's like, oh, so I could probably get it for real cheap then, you know? And then like,
wow.
And then,
so he didn't buy it for.
It's a private street, right? And you go up, and it's on the hill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's beautiful. Roman Polanski was like, this would be a great house.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So it's like, so it's not just like the house was nice. It's just the property, and his house is huge. You know, so he's selling it right now. If you have like $1 million, very much million, like over $1 million,
millions of dollars. Yeah, but it's just the land is the same. It's not the same house anymore.
Correct.
Wow.
And so much so, and we don't put this in the movie, but like. There's the guy that lives like I guess next to that house, and he feels that all the spirits from that death were released when the house was knocked down and came to his house.
Oh, what a bummer!
And if you spend X amount of money, there's a seance and
that's very good that he offers that. That's very nice.
So yeah, some people making it all a business, you know.
Yeah. So is that what you're? Yeah, that's what your focus is on right now?
We're just finishing it up. You know, we're doing Barney Press this week, and then I'm out in Albuquerque, and then Tulsa, because Tulsa's the Outsider's house that Danny Boy O'Connor from House of Pain owns.
That's great.
And so, we're just a couple more houses that we're just wrapping it up and putting it out for the beginning. I'm editing it right now. But that was the main thing is like, on our Kickstarter, there's like, we're giving away, like, well, not giving away, but one of the rewards are, a limited time DVD, some t-shirts from Bill Murray stories, producer credits, and all that sort of stuff. But it's great where it's like, this is one of those things where, okay, yeah, there are no like true crime elements to this, or there's no like drama besides throwing pizza on the roof of a house.
Right.
But like, it's interesting to see these things.
It's just cool. It's just
a fun
cool thing to
perspective.
see, like, as a fan,
Yeah.
which I feel like is really where you as a filmmaker kind of are. It's just like stuff that you're a fan of or can relate to being a fan of. Like, let's just tell these stories, right?
I mean, there's always like some sort of point, it's
Sure.
like, and like, you look at some of the houses that some of these people, it's to millions of people, it's the house from this thing or that thing, but to one family, it's home,
Right.
so it's that interesting perspective and then ownership. And it's all the idea of like, what do we worship? We always worship images, but the images of like Full House, like you go to this house and it just makes you feel like safe. Or we went to the Miss Doubtfire house and this guy's like, dude, I'm a product of divorce. This house means a lot to me because of when I watched it, it made me feel these things.
Yeah.
Like seeing the Boy Meets World house, like it's fun for me. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Do you have a fantasy project? Is there some story now that you've kind of, built a pretty nice catalog of stuff where you're like, yeah, this is not what I'm doing right now. This is what I do. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and this is kind of my beat. I feel like you found your beat, right? Do you is there a story that you're like, that's one. Eventually I'll get there.
I mean, there's a couple, there's a couple I want to do, but I would love to eventually like get into like scripted, like I think that would be fun to do. Cause I always wanted to be like Kevin Smith when I was older, younger.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
when I was younger.
Well, you can only do it when you're older.
Yes.
You're not gonna be able to do it when you're younger.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like, especially watching like Clerks 3, I was like, that made me want to make movies with like my friends so much again,
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. I'm glad that Peacock is so firmly behind this. Like, it's got to be nice to see that, like, Peacock I feel like is really putting a blitz of promo out for it. Like, this is going to be the doc of the moment for them, which is good.
It's interesting because like I had the Bill Murray stories that came out, and that was like it was on Netflix for 2 years. And it was popular because Bill Murray's name was in the title, right? And my next movie was about a child with eye cancer who used cannabis oil to help his cancer treatments. Called Waldo and Weed. Whoopi Goldberg was our executive producer, and I knew when we were doing Bill Murray, I was like, people aren't going to be too excited about the next one. It wasn't like people were. I remember we sold out like hot dogs, like 700 people like a night, like this, and like a kid with cancer. People are going to be rushing to it. So it's fun to go back to like the pop culture sort of thing. Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah.
The stuff that's fun. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you did, and I'm looking forward to everybody seeing it. I think everybody's going to get a kick out of it. It's one of those where it was right as soon as I saw the trailer. I was like, this is right up my alley. I hope this is done right. Because if it's done right, this is going to be great. Like, this is one of those stories that I'm ready to revisit. And it was right up my alley, dude.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, like, that was the fun thing. Like, when we did Bill Murray or Santa, there was always other people doing, like, some of them was trying to do a Bill Murray doc, and someone else was doing Santa Claus doc. We were very fortunate that no one was doing
No
Barney.
one's doing this.
Yeah, and also, I don't think anyone would ever think to do it this way either. Like,
Right.
we kind of tell a unique story with Barney,
Definitely.
and I think it's very topical in the way we talk about it.
Definitely. And I was looking on YouTube, and it is funny that, like, the main voice of Barney, the guy who's most famous for being the voice of Barney, he's still like, he's doing like YouTube live streams and stuff and he's keeping the Barney community alive. And I saw him and he was like, I haven't seen it. It should be good. I have faith in it, but I don't know. I do feel like that the Barney fan community that I'm sure exists is going to be very happy with it. And yeah, I like it. I like the exploration we all go on and as the story gets told.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, some of the Barney fans that we spoke to have like, I think they're calling it Operation Purple Rain,
Mhm.
where like this week they're just trying to make the week rain purple.
They want this to be
like,
everywhere.
Yeah. So
great.
yeah, so
That's great. Well, I hope it is.
yeah, same
I
here,
hope
man.
it is. I can't wait for everybody to see it, and we'll be talking about it. So watch it, Tommy. Appreciate it. Where can people follow you on social and all that?
If you know how to spell my last name, it's Tommy Avallone, Avallone 3.
Boom.
You know what? Or just doublewindsorfilms.com. That's probably easier.
doublewindsorfilms.com.
Yeah.
Or just whatever's got this thing
just
printed
go
on
just
it.
go on IMDb and you can find me that way. I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk to you the next time you got a movie out.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
for sure.